Hey guys, how you doing? This is Eddie Simonette, multifamily real estate investor out of Birmingham, Alabama. And today I'm going to talk to you guys about how I was able to purchase my first rental property. So the first property I purchased was from a seller who I had a pre-existing relationship with, and they were offloading a single family portfolio, including this property, which was the only multifamily property, is a duplex. And it's the one that caught most of my attention. I liked it because, it had two units at one site instead of me having to purchase like two houses, in different areas. So this property originally was for sale for $50,000. We ended up agreeing on $40,000, and the challenges at the time that I had was I didn't have any relationships with any banks. I was young, so bank financing would have been really hard to get. And then also like personal finances, I was straight out of college, so I didn't have the 2 or 3 years of tax returns that banks usually look for when they're looking to approve a loan. So I had to get creative, and the solution I found was a strategy called seller financing. Seller financing is when the seller acts as the bank, and instead of you getting debt from the bank, the seller will hold that mortgage over an AM period, and it'll be paid off. So the seller would be getting the monthly payments instead of you paying a bank the monthly payments. So this strategy actually worked out, and we ended up agreeing on the $40,000. I put down $20,600 as a down payment, and the remaining amount of $19,400 was held as a note. And that note was at 7.7% interest rate. It was over an amortization period of 9 years. And that worked out to be $250 a month for the principal and interest. So the total payment was $250 a month, which is pretty cheap. And it was that way because I put so much down. So you're looking at a deal where I was able to put, around 50% down. It was written so it was no balloon. So it wasn't like the whole loan was due at the end of 3 or 5 years in total. So it was like a full amortization of that 9 years, and it's no prepayment penalties at all. So what that means is it allowed me to pay off this loan anytime I wanted to within the course of that 9 years. So that's how I was able to get the financing down for the deal. And so we're gonna look at the numbers. So it's a duplex. Both of the units were 2-bedroom, 1-bath units. Unit A at the time of purchase was occupied for $400 a month, and Unit B was going through renovations, so it would have been done right at the time where we were about to close. And on the rent roll, it showed that it was previously rented for $550 a month. And so that worked out to $950 total in income for this deal. And then me and the seller met, because usually you want to get what's called a rent roll, which is what I just said, where it shows all of the tenants at the property and the amount of rents they're paying. And then you want to get what's called a trailing 12, which is the last 12 months of income and expenses. And then if the seller has it, you can ask for a profit and loss statement, which is the last year's income and expense, at year end. So it shows the year. And we didn't have any of those. We only had the rent roll as far as it being on paper. So we met and we were able to work through each line item of expenses. And some of the expenses I had to go out and actually get fixed costs on, like the insurance. So we went through and we figured out the trash roughly was about $23 a month. And it was billed quarterly, so every 3 months I'd have to pay a trash, but we have everything broken down by month. So the trash was $23 a month. Insurance worked out to be $76 a month. The lawn care was $50 a month. Taxes, $72 a month. Maintenance, around $50 a month. So the total operating expenses was $271 each month. And that worked out to net operating income, NOI of $679. So this is a C-class area, so I would consider it around like a higher cap. So at a 12 cap, you're looking at a value of $67,900. So looking at this deal, we're purchasing it for $40,000, and right at closing, with no type of rent increases, just going off of what it has done historically, we're looking at a value of $67,900. So if I wanted to, I could sell this property the day after closing, put it on the market, and we could have a list price of around this amount in a perfect situation. So the mortgage, like we said, is $250, and that worked out after you consider how much income we were making, the operating expenses that we had, and then the mortgage payment. We would get a cash flow of $429 a month if both sides were occupied. So that works out to be a 25% cash on cash return. This is a smaller deal, so smaller deals you would get a higher cash on cash return, and as you go larger to maybe a 30, 40, 50 unit apartment complex, because it's more units, that return goes down. It's a lower number, but it's still a great investment. It's just a larger deal. So it worked out to a 25% cash on cash return, and at the time my investment goal was to at least get $200 per door. So at $429, that's more than $200 a unit. So this was a green light for me to where I wanted to go ahead and purchase this deal. So I had enough information to where I could pull the trigger and go ahead and close on it. So during the underwriting period, at the time I was living in a apartment, and I was paying $700 in rent on that apartment. And in the closing process, I was thinking about ways I could try to get my monthly expenses down. And what I ended up doing was a strategy called house hacking. And house hacking is basically when you move into a multifamily property in one of the units as your primary residence, and you rent out the other unit, and the tenants paying the rent can cover the expenses with the property. So at the time I was paying $700. I wanted to lower my monthly expenses, and this was like a perfect opportunity for me to do that. And I decided to move in Unit A. It was a studio apartment, so both of them were 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Unit A was a studio apartment. It didn't have HVAC at purchase, and I knew I could get more rent for the Unit B. So instead of going ahead and deciding to rent out the better conditioned unit, I rented a unit was in a rougher condition, because I can collect more in rent to cover my operating expenses. So moved into Unit A about 3 months after closing, and I rented Unit B around that same time too for $550. So with the expenses and mortgage, that's $431. And I was actually able to save $90 a month by lowering my taxes by doing what's called a homestead exemption. Is when you go down to the tax assessor and you identify that you're going to be living in a property, and they give you a tax break on it. So I was able to save about $40 by doing that. And then also with the lawn care, I can go ahead and knock that out because I was going to cut the grass myself at the property. So that went to where the expenses and the mortgage payment were $431, and that would actually leave me with a profit of $120 for living in the property. So for me, it was a great decision. I would go from actually losing $700 a month to where I can make a profit of $120 a month to live in the property. So I think that's a great strategy for anyone, just getting started, who may, want to do real estate full time and get in a position to where they can lower their monthly expenses. I think this would be a good option for you. So today we went over, how I found the deal, how I was able to finance it, the numbers of the property, and then also house hacking strategies on what you can do, if you want to try to lower your monthly expenses. I hope you guys liked the video, and I'll be putting my social media links down in the description. If you have any questions or anything, you can email me or contact me on there. So hope you learned something, and tune in for the next video. All right, bye.